We will now, for the general public, move into our regular meeting. That was our organizational meeting, so we've concluded the organizational, and we will move into our regular meeting for the month of January.
Once again, good evening again. Welcome to the Fairborn City Schools Board of Education regular meeting dated the 7th of January, 2021. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Browning,
Here.
Mrs. Malad,
Here.
Mr. Wilson, Ms. Reister,
Here.
Mr. McCourt.
Yes. Item number 3, approve agenda as presented. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mary.
Second.
Okay, thanks, Katie. Roll call, please.
Ms. Reister,
Yes.
Mrs. Malad,
Yes.
Mr. Browning,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson, Mr. McCourt.
Yes. Motion carries. Next item is to approve minutes of the Thursday, December 3rd regular meeting and December 16th, 2020 work session. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Jerry.
Second.
Thank you, ladies.
Pick one. It's okay.
Pick one.
Either.
Pick one.
Which one, Mr. McCourt?
Let's go with Mary.
Me.
And may I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Browning,
Yes.
Ms. Reister,
Yes.
Mrs. Malad,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson, Mr. McCourt.
Yes. Next item is the board reports for the good of the order. Katie, will you start us out, please?
Sure. I hope everyone had an enjoyable holiday break. It's good to be back to the routine. I need that in my life. Just a plug for the Fairborn Music Club. Winter programs are starting. I think you can maybe even hear in the background that the drum line is practicing and Winter Guard is prepping their shows. They'll be starting in, I believe, end of February, beginning of March. But they need a lot of support for financial help because of so much money lost to fundraising during COVID. So please keep an eye out for things that the kids are doing and support them if you can. And we'll be sure to be sharing the streaming opportunities for watching them perform as those come around in March. So thanks.
Mary?
I have nothing this month.
Okay. Jerry?
Just, been to a few basketball games, both boys and girls, and still it's tough when there's that small of a crowd and there's not cheering and the gym's quiet and those kind of things, but it's still good to see the kids getting to get to play basketball. And also the other thing I enjoyed was the pep band being at the games. It's still neat to see those kids be able to do those types of things and be kids. So that's it.
Mr. Wilson? Okay, I would echo the basketball comments. Was able to attend both boys and girls contests. The girls are coming along pretty good. But I also look forward this weekend to the MLK contest and judging that the board is involved with. That'll be on Saturday and Sunday. And thank you, Amy, for setting that up for us. Also, just another thanks to the teachers, custodians in the buildings. They're still making things work, even though they have limited crowds to work with. But I can't imagine some of the stuff the teachers are having to go through to get through this thing. And hopefully soon we will all be through it. I hope everybody had a good holiday. And thank God 2020 is gone, and here's to a new and good 2021. That's all I have. Next item, recognition of visitors and public comments. Mr. Philo.
Mr. President, I don't have anybody in person signed up for public comments. Is there anybody online for public comments? Hearing none. No public comments this month.
Okay. Next item is school district presentations. Mr. Lawley.
Good evening, everyone. And the governor has declared the month of January recognition of school boards. With that being said, I want to take a few moments to recognize a very special board that we have here in Fairborn. School boards plant the seeds of success. School board members are ordinary people who have an extraordinary dedication to our public schools. And it is time that we thank them for their untiring efforts. Too often, we forget about the personal sacrifices school board members routinely make. Too often, we forget about the important role school board members play in assuring local control over public schools, control that is in the hands of people that we know and people who are our neighbors. Too often, we forget that in the tradition of a representative democracy, and I say I'm thankful that we do live in a representative democracy, school board members are our connection to influencing how our public schools are governed. Too often, we are too quick to criticize school board members without really knowing all the details that went into any given decision. And too often, the efforts of school board members go unrecognized and unrewarded. We can begin to correct those oversights right now, which is School Board Recognition Month. This is a time to show our appreciation and to begin to better understand how school board members work together to provide leadership for our schools. The school boards work closely with parents, education professionals, and community members to create the educational vision we want for our students. It formulates goals, defines results, and sets the course for an adequate and equitable education program for all students. The school board is accountable to the public. It is responsible for assuring the public that the money allocated to the public schools is provided a good return on the investment. Thus, the school board oversees regular assessment of the district's students, staff, and programs. The school board also is a strong advocate for public schools and is responsible for communicating the needs of the school district to the public and the public's expectations to the district. In January, please join with others from throughout our district and state to salute the men and women who provide grassroots governance of public schools. Let's make a special effort to tell each school board member his or her hard work has been noticed and is very much appreciated. Thank you, Fairborn Board of Education, for your tireless work on behalf of the Fairborn City Schools. And with that, from Governor DeWine and Lieutenant Governor John Husted, I would like to read the following proclamation. And it is in the name and by the authority of the state of Ohio, whereas more than 700 boards of education oversee and manage the personnel and properties of school districts throughout Ohio, and whereas school board members are elected to establish the policies that provide the framework for their schools, and whereas school board members devote hours of their time each week to provide leadership to their local schools, and whereas school boards fill an important role with members creating and monitoring district plans to make sure students have the tools and skills to reach their full potential. And whereas the school boards maintain communications with all segments of their communities to keep the public informed of district activities, and whereas school board members advocate for the best interest of the students served in their districts, and whereas throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, Ohio school boards have played an important role in providing safe, ongoing instructions to students. And whereas it is important that communities support school boards so that students receive the best education and are prepared to be the leaders of tomorrow. And now, therefore, we, Mike DeWine and John Husted, Governor and Lieutenant Governor of the state of Ohio, do hereby recognize January as School Board Recognition Month on this first day of January 2021. And on behalf of our entire staff and parents, students, we can't say enough the leadership that you all have provided. And I am stealing the term, and I said this yesterday at the Rotary meeting, the city has the slogan that we are a city in motion. And because of your efforts that you have put forth for our kids, bottom line, our kids in this district, we're a school in motion. So thank you. Some plaques
Oh, gosh.
Oh, my heavens.
for you. You come forward, and I think we will take a picture with them holding this first.
Thank you, all 5 people.
Thank you, Patrick. And you're to use that as a wall.
Here, do
Oh,
we just
okay.
do a really nice frame?
Thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Sorry, I'm having problems.
Mary Reister.
We gotta go stand by Andy.
Stand by where?
Katie Malone.
Oh,
Thank you very much. Appreciate you stepping up. And Mr. Andy Wilson. There you go, Andy.
Stand next to Andy?
Yeah,
Let's stand next to Andy.
let's stand next to Andy.
I feel like we're gathering around the great wisdom.
Put your mask on.
Put it on the shelf below him. Put the plaque right, put the plaque right below his face. Right there.
What does he have? What is he trying to do?
Holding up. Your plaque's right below you.
Oh, are we supposed to get in that close?
Here, I'll step back a little bit. Back.
Staggered.
There you go.
That's true, less than 15 minutes.
Awesome, thank you.
Good brain on Brian.
Katie, what's that?
I think you're Andy.
I am there. Nobody looks too close in that picture.
Never looked so good.
Or so short.
Or so short.
Okay, next, I'd like to do a facilities update. And we'll start off with the primary building. To improve the traffic flow at the primary, we have cut a new bus entrance in up there, coming in off Dayton Yellow Springs. That will improve traffic flow. It will be a right-hand turn only going out of there for parents. So we've shifted some things around that will make things a whole lot better. And we're able to double up and possibly triple up traffic coming in off of Thunderbird when they're coming around to pick up students. So things should start going a lot smoother there on January 25th when we start back. We also have improved signage in that area. It will direct appropriately, right-hand turn only, and on the other side of the sign, it will say no entrance, some of those types of things. So we do have signage ready to go and to make sure everything runs smoothly there. At the primary on Saturday, January 2nd, we found water on the gym floor, the new gym floor. It seems to have leaked through one of the 6 storm levers. So we are in the process working with Monarch to get that alleviated. It did do some damage to the gym floor in an area. It did buckle some of that, so that will have to be taken up and new flooring put back down, but that is in the process of being taken care of. The intermediate, believe it or not, we are 20 months out from having a new school at the intermediate. 20 months. Starting my countdown. Might have missed that the last few times, but we're 20 months out. Footers are complete. All foundation block will be done by the end of this week. The north and east walls of the storm shelter will begin next week. And it's pertinent that we are putting that storm shelter in there, just like we did the primary. It's safety for inclement weather. So it cost a little bit, but for the safety of our kids and staff, that's well money spent. Underground plumbing in the kitchen area is complete. And gravel for the driveways and parking lots will begin about January 18th. So that's an update for the intermediate. Update a little bit on the new high school. We are 32 months out. We counted that today. Counted it out, 32 months. We had the third high school design team meeting this past Monday, and that involves members of our high school staff, administration, and some board members. We will have a core meeting tomorrow with SH&P, that's our architectural firm. That's tomorrow, I believe, at 1 o'clock. Am I right on that? I'm happy to report also out on Commerce, we have started clearing the land. Approximately about 25 acres of clearing there. So if you were to drive along Commerce, it looks a little bit different, and you do get a little excited when you see that. And I walked that ground a couple days ago. Pat and I were out there, and hey, it's a start, and I think you'll start seeing ground being moved probably in June. So there's a lot of formalities and a lot of things that we have to get through to get to that. So you can count on about June, we start moving dirt for the high school. The overall design is starting to take shape of the facility and the layout of the property. So we are working on that continuously, but we got to get that going, and we'll be doing some more of that tomorrow in our core team. And we'll continue to do that with the high school design team. We are still on schedule at this point for the high school. We're still on schedule, so we feel very good about that. On your agenda for the night is the approval of the commissioning agent for the storm shelter and the peer review. Both Stan and Associates are on and Schultz are the same companies that we have used for the primary and the intermediate schools. With that, those are things that I really like reporting on, because it's moving us into the 21st century. So, any questions? Okay, thank you very much. I think next up to give us a report on our diversity and inclusion program that we have started here, Mrs. Amy Gayhart to update us.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to update you. So even though COVID has thrown a pretty big wrench in anything that we might have tried to plan for this year, I just want to reiterate that we do continue to talk about equity, diversity, and inclusion and what we can be doing in Fairborn schools to improve in those areas. So in the fall, I was invited to take part in the Fairborn Diversity and Inclusion Committee. So October, I joined the first meeting. We meet monthly, and out of that committee, just to let you know, that committee does have city council members as well as representatives from local businesses and just community members at large. They did ask 2 students from Fairborn High School who were part of the diversity club to take part in that committee, and one of them very frequently participates. The other one does as she can. She's an athlete, and I know she's very busy, and she probably just doesn't have the free time to be involved as much as she would like. But both of them have been taking part in it, which I think is pretty exciting. So out of that committee, they came up with an idea in November to hold a Martin Luther King. They originally wanted to hold a Martin Luther King Jr. Ceremony, an event to mark that day, and out of that grew the idea for an essay contest, and the essay contest then grew into an art and creative expression contest, And so we have partnered with that committee, and we are currently taking in submissions for artwork at all 4 grade levels, for creative expression videos at the intermediate, middle school, and high school levels, and essays at the intermediate, middle school, and high school levels. We weren't sure that our youngest students would be able to put together an essay, and so we thought giving them the opportunity to do artwork would be okay. And we've even had some questions about if they could do a video, and we said, by all means, yes, we will take whatever. The committee has worked very diligently because this came together really in the big scheme of things last minute. And so they have been working with downtown businesses to display the artwork and the essays. They have a whole group of people who have come together and agreed to judge the different types of entries at the different levels. They have prizes for the top 3 entries in every level, and everyone at the primary will receive, I think they've decided on a gift card for ice cream from, I believe, Juvies. So something that, really just was somebody thought it was a good idea. It's really blossomed into a pretty exciting event. And I interviewed with WYSO tonight right before coming over here, along with Clint Allen, about the Martin Luther King Jr. contest. And we've been having artwork being dropped off at the board office, and I was able to show some of those different pieces, and it's just really exciting. As a teacher at heart, it's so cool to see what our students are capable of doing when given the opportunity. So I'm really excited to see all the different submissions that get turned in. Also in December, Mr. Walker and I both take part in the Dayton Area School Employee Consortium Personnel Directors Committee. So once a quarter, the personnel directors from across the Miami Valley come together, usually at the Montgomery County ESC. We've been meeting virtually now in light of COVID, to discuss different types of personnel issues. But they decided this fall that it would benefit us all if we formed a subcommittee on equity, diversity, and inclusion. And so I took part of that in December, or took part in that in December. We met in Dayton, and I did not know this ahead of time, but they actually had Dr. Aguirre, who did our training back in the fall, come in and speak. And we just talked about historical events that have impacted equity and inclusion in our community. It was very enlightening. I learned a great deal that I wasn't even aware of before, just about the history of Dayton. We looked at some, historical things across the United States that impact the opportunities that different groups have been able to engage in. And so that was really just a learning. Let's just try and be a sponge and absorb as much as we can in order to better understand the situation. In our next meeting, we're actually going to start to work. Centerville has a diversity and inclusion support system in place for their teachers that are minorities. And so we're going to look at what Centerville does and try and duplicate that across our districts. We want to talk about also how to pool our resources so that when we do find non-traditional candidates, that if it's not a good fit for our district, we know how to get the word out to other personnel directors to see if they might be a good fit in another district. We also talked about how we can start what I would term like a grow your own program, how we can look at our students that are graduating within our district and, find out who has an interest in education, because we have a lot of different types of jobs in Fairborn City Schools. They're not just all teachers, although we would love to, to bring in a more diverse group of teachers. And how do we get them plugged into the schools and educate them about the job opportunities that we have, and keep them in that pipeline so that ultimately they might come back and work for us. And then that way we improve our own diversity. So a lot of things going on. Like I said, COVID has really just been a big challenge this year, but this isn't something that has gone away, and it's certainly something that Mr. Lally and I talk about quite often, and we want to continue to be proactive in as many ways as we possibly can. So that's all that I've got. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Amy.
you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gayhart. Next up, in February, you're going to be asked to approve the 2021-22 Fairborn High School course of study. And here tonight to update us on the course of study for the high school is Mr. McKnight. Ms. Hallberg going to, okay, stand corrected.
tag team.
Mrs. Hallberg,
This is the second copy. So.
that's your call. As long as you give us an update, I don't care who does it.
Podium would be better so we can record.
Oh, you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying stand up there with her.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold the microphone.
Just move it closer to you.
I think they'll hear you.
I'm pretty loud anyway.
Yeah.
So, thank you. What Mrs. Hallberg passed out to you all was a course of study and also a summary of changes to the course of study. This course of study booklet, it's 56 pages, so we didn't want you to have to read each of the 56 pages. So what Mrs. Hallberg did was she went through and made kind of a reference sheet of general changes. And the course of study of something that is approved every year. And it provides important information about the courses offered at Fairborn High School, as well as state and local requirements for graduation, academic awards, and curricular options. So once this, we usually present this at a Skyhawks Connections night, and it's also put on the website for parents to look at and kind of help their children look at options, curricular options for them. And students should make course selections carefully. Being familiar with the course of study will help you make appropriate high school course selections. So we do encourage students and parents to read through the course of study with the future academic plans in mind. And the courses that students select should be based on their abilities, graduation requirements, and the goals for the future. Every effort, of course, is always made to accommodate students' course requests to the following school year. However, enrollment numbers and staffing constraints may ultimately affect which courses and how many selections of each course are able to be scheduled. So the information about any new course offerings or cancellations of the courses are shared with the student body as the information becomes available. And then, of course, if any parent has any question or concern, or even students have questions or concerns, our counselors are doing a fantastic job, as well as Mrs. Hallberg, myself, Mr. Antigley, can kind of help guide them to select the proper courses needed for graduation as well. So, and without going through, obviously, on this sheet, again, 56 pages, you see just some highlighted things, and those are the things that we've changed. Some of it is basic, simple corrections, spelling errors, things of that nature. So do you guys have any questions regarding the course of study? Or Mrs. Hallberg, anything you want to add?
I would just like to point out, even though this is an annual approval, in most years we have more significant changes to the course of study, but this year, due to COVID and all of the associated things associated with scheduling, we have elected to not change hardly anything. So that includes fees, courses, and things of that nature. The only significant changes that we made were to remove language talking about OGTs, because that's phased out now, fully phased out now. So we have taken that out. And of course, staff personnel changes. We have reflected that in there as well. And the bulk of the course changes were either clarifications, correction of errors, or in a couple of cases, we retitled a course even though the content has not changed at all, because students didn't fully really understand what the course was about. And through conversations with our guidance office, a simple title change makes those courses much more accessible and interesting to the students to sign up for.
And in that course of study, you also find that there are some pages that are taken directly off of ODE and inserted in that as the state requirement. Now that we just threw it at you, what questions do you have of us?
I'm going through and planning Alicia's year next year.
Sometimes it's best if parents do have a good
Yeah.
grasp and a good handle.
Yeah, I love getting it early.
But Mom.
That's not what I wanted to do.
Yes.
No, I like the idea of the summary. It helps.
Yes.
It helps a
yeah.
lot. Thank
That is Mrs. Hallberg's brainchild.
That's good.
Well, thanks, Deb.
Yeah, this is
Yes, thank you both.
it's really quite impressive at the things that we can offer. You know, that we do a really good job of keeping it, you know, a lot of variety and a lot of interesting things for the kids.
I would like to point out we have one additional new class added this year, but this was kind of approved a couple of years ago in the adoption of our American Sign Language series. So we will be adding American Sign Language 3 next year
Oh, that's
Good.
wonderful.
as
Good.
part of that ongoing 4-year implementation process.
Yeah, the program has become very popular.
Right.
Yeah, it's very, very popular.
Yes.
And even the kids who are in Spanish know their sign language because their friends teach it to them. So Mary wants to learn. She's going to enroll.
I'm just gonna stop by during ASL class. It's fine.
Every
Just
day,
gonna observe.
There you go.
every day. I'm good.
Any other
Good.
questions?
No,
No,
good.
Thank you.
Great.
both
Thank you
for
very
Thank you
being
both.
here. If you weren't here, there wouldn't be anybody else to clap for us.
Is it possibly possible for me to get a couple signatures while I have
Yeah.
a couple of you there? I have Mr. McCourt. This is for graduation, signatures on diplomas. I would need Mr. Philo and Mr. Lally. So, yeah, yeah, just right in this box, just kind of like in this box. No. Because it'll.
Sign it pretty.
Could have been on the Declaration of Independence.
Thank you. Yep.
If you guys don't mind speaking out just a little bit more, they're having a hard time hearing you guys online. I don't wanna
Okay.
shift
Okay.
anything around just yet.
What is your-
Talk louder.
Oh, okay. That's a first.
So,
Okay, the next item from the Budget and Finance. It is a recommendation that the Board of Education accept the receipt of the monthly financial report for November 2020. We have a few attachments that you all have received prior to the meeting tonight. With that, may I have a motion?
This is for items A, B, and
A,
C.
B, and C.
A, B, and C, yes.
And C being the resolution declaring intent to proceed with the election of the question of substitution of emergency levy.
Right.
Okay,
So moved?
thank you, Jerry.
Second.
Thank you, Mary. Roll call, please.
Mr. Browning,
Yes.
Ms. Reister,
Yes.
Mrs. Malad,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. McCourt.
Yes, motion carries.
And just FYI, Mr. President,
Mhm.
this is the second resolution to put a 7 mil substitute renewal levy on the May ballot. You took action in December for the first action. This is a simple renewal, a substitute renewal, would make it for a continuous period of time and will not raise taxes. So Mrs. Gayhart has a press release that'll go out tonight, tomorrow. We want to make sure the public's informed, but the main thing is it will not raise taxes.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you for clarifying. Next item, administrative reports and superintendent's recommendations. Superintendent recommended is made to approve the following. And we have maybe 11 items? No, we have 14 items.
Mr. President, I would like to call out that the retirement of Billy Witt, bus driver, with tribute to 15 years of service with Fairborn City Schools.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mary. Second?
Second.
Thanks, Jerry. Mr. Philo?
Ms. Reister,
Yes.
Mr. Browning,
Yes.
Mrs. Milan,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. McCord.
Yes. Motion carries. Next is gifts and donations. Jerry, you want to read those off to us?
Yeah, and, these are very important to the school district, and also a number of these are related to the homeless students, poverty for the holidays. But first of all is Merrill Brewer, tricycle for the primary school toy donation. And then the rest of these are donations to the homeless students and students in poverty for the holidays. Beaver Creek T-Mobile, they donated presents. The Ernst family, household items, clothing, and financial. Fair Creek Church was presents and financial. And the balance of these are presents. It's Fair Creek Church young adults, FCS Nutrition Department, FCS Transportation Department, and Jonani Rockwood donated presents. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jerry. Next item is new business. It is recommended by the superintendent and treasurer to sell to the city of Fairborn real estate at 221 North Central Avenue, Fairborn. For those of you, for the amount of $1 per attached real estate and sales agreement. For those of you who don't know, we have owned the property right next to senior housing there on Central for many, many years. For many, many years, we have done nothing with that piece of property other than mow it. And the board got together along with the city. City has shown some interest in that property, and the board has got together and approved the sale of this property. Mr. Philo, do you have anything else?
It's a sale because for real estate property, you have to have a thing of value, which is $1. So in essence, it's really a donation to the city of Fairborn, in cooperation with them.
Any questions?
I believe that the city is planning to put the Veterans Memorial there and also a small playground at that facility. So,
Oh, what a great idea.
Yep, great usage.
my resident council person, I told her about this, and she said the price seems kind of high.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Any other questions? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mary.
Second.
Thanks, Katie. Mr. Philo?
Ms. Reister,
Yes.
Mrs. Malad,
Yes.
Mr. Browning,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. McCord.
Yes. Motion carries. Next item, Mr. Philo?
With that, the entertain a motion to go into executive session for the specified purpose of the employment, or compensation of public employees.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Katie. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Malad,
Yes.
Mr. Browning,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Reister,
Yes.
Mr. McCord.
Yes. Motion carries.
Time is 6:44. We will recess. We'll go into executive session. We anticipate being in the executive session to come out of executive session to go into a work session, and no other items of business other than adjournment after that.
I don't have that. I don't have